Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. So this week I just want to talk about just the overall feel of the Magic the Gathering market, and I am confuddled, confused, bewildered. I do not know exactly what's going on because at the start of the year, back I would say December, with the really low sales of Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, with Standard kind of being in disarray, with the Modern was taking off, but still at that point too, there was kind of a sluggishness in just all of constructed play, and Magic, in a nutshell, was on a downer by the end of 2017. So I predicted a bear market for the first quarter onto the second quarter, which I thought would have some recovery onto the third and fourth quarters of 2018. And boy, oh boy, as far as the singles market is concerned, I couldn't have been more wrong. We are seeing hyperinflation, or at least really inflated prices, on basically across the board, whether it be standard cards, whether it be modern cards. Commander continues to do well. Pauper is quite stagnant at the moment, but usually that's how Pauper is when there is something new and shiny like a new standard or a new set coming out. Then people forget about Pauper, and then it comes back when the constructed format or modern becomes so expensive that people look elsewhere to play Magic the Gathering. So I think that's what's kind of happening with Pauper. The original influx of people that want to get into the format have got their cards, and now the Pauper format is definitely cooling off. So for this Market Monday, there's not going to be a huge theme here, other than just trying to analyze what we've got going on and where moving forward. First things first, I want to talk about Dominaria. Dominaria is one of the best sets as far as singles holding their prices after the release. So it was released last week. Well, it was actually just released this weekend, but people had access to that earlier, so we should have seen a quicker turnaround in the market with the pre-sales. If you bought a box from your local game store, you could get one early, and then the singles would enter the market, meaning people could get them quicker. So we would think that this set would deflate quicker than sets in the past. However, it is holding pretty strong with a bunch of the more sleeper cards like Teferi and Lyra Dawnbringer coming out the gates with having triple ups from their original prices. And you've still seen other cards that are more of the staple cards in the format holding strong or even increasing, and haven't seen that big of a decrease overall. However, Dominaria, a lot of the value is held in the Mythics, but the Mythics are still very strong, and the set value of Dominaria is, again, one of the best ones. Even I know we're still really out the gates here on week number 1, and this is going to depreciate very quickly. However, $117 booster box TCG mid price, even right out the gates, is really unheard of. We haven't seen this in quite a while with this sort of very healthy prices coming after this, even the set is spoiled. So I don't expect this to hold, and I'm going to give out a little bit of theories as to why I think this is occurring. So we all know how poorly Rivals of Ixalan, Hour of Devastation, Ixalan, and even Amonkhet, they're all, as far as the market is concerned, duds. It was so bad that Hour of Devastation didn't even get a second wave printing, which is the first set in a long time that has not had enough demand to have Wizards do their secondary printing of the set. So for those who don't know, exactly in what I call Magic 3.0 or Magic 2.0, whatever you want to classify it is, that we had some shortages during New Phyrexia, while the Standard and Worldwake and New Phyrexia were the two sets that, while they were still in Standard, were out of stock. And it led to a lot of frustration because people wanting to play Standard couldn't even get cards that were needed for Standard. So Wizards, after that whole frustrative kind of era, they decided they were going to print to demand. They weren't just going to try to guess how many sets were or how many boxes were needed in the market. They were just going to continue to print boxes until the set rotated out of Standard, and allow distributors and local game stores to kind of buy as meet demand for that period of time. So after New Phyrexia, they really started printing sets. So Innistrad, Dark Ascension, Avacyn Restored, all those got plenty of printings through their standard life, and you can find packs at MSRP, no problem. The same can be said during the Return to Ravnica Theros era, all the way to Khans. Khans was one of the most sold set, probably the most sold set of all times, and they printed that 3 or 4 times. The amount of waves that they printed before that rotated out of Standard. In fact, that Khans, if you still look at like cards out of the Khans, nothing is really worth anything, not because it doesn't see play in like Modern or Commander, it's because the set was open so much for fetch lands that nothing else could hold value. So that was kind of the baseline that people can look back to how much a market can hold. During Khans of Tarkir, we also had a higher player base. According to some statistics thrown around here and there, we're down about, I don't know, between 15% of the low end all the way to up to about 40% in the more organized play of the players, like people that are actually playing at local game stores or at Grand Prix or at other events. I know for a fact that we used to travel, and even like the PTQs used to be packed, and now you can find like PPTQs that barely have 15 people show up for them. I know the FNMs are down. I know a lot of stores have closed in the Salt Lake City area. I've heard throughout the country too that a lot of local game stores also have closed. So definitely players are down. However, the singles market remains strong, and I think that is more to do with there are less vendors out there than anything. It used to be very, very profitable for a local game store or just a box opener, an eBay seller, to crack boxes and then sell them. And then I would say after Khans of Tarkir, that really dried up, where it was extremely hard for these sets to actually make their money back if you open them up. And it was still there was enough people that still liked Zach the Crack Addict that just like to open up booster boxes for the thrill of opening booster boxes and then sell them on the market, and that kept prices way down. And then we also saw the era of the started with expeditions and then on to the masterpieces and then finally on to the invocations, where people are cracking box after box after box trying to crack those special cards, and the special cards held all of the box value. So it was either hit or bust in a particular set if you were to make your money back. And so then we had them get rid of them for Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan, but both of those also end up being quite duds if you were just going to open them up for value. So lo and behold, here comes Dominaria. Dominaria is a print-to-demand set. It has $120 average booster box at TCG mid. The TCG low, if we switch for TCG low, is still quite impressive at a $69. That's, if you look at compared to like Ixalan or Rivals, is almost double the value over Rivals of Ixalan or Ixalan if we go by TCG mid. So that's what you can expect if right now you're going to crack it up and just put it, or TCG low, put it all on TCG player. This is how much you will recoup. So anyway, my theory is though that Dominaria is so strong because we had so many duds in a row. Since Amonkhet, that it hasn't been profitable. We've seen a lot less people cracking packs. We had a set called Unstable that came out that people were able to crack for the lands and make their money back, and then it shifted a lot of the money to Unstable. Then we had two master sets wedged in between there that ended up being duds, and I think a lot of people got burned. And so I really think there's a lot less eBay sellers, a lot less people in the game. I'd really like to have some statistics by like TCU player to see if the sellers have dropped off, as there are less sellers that sell on the platform, or even any other big vendor to see if they actually have been selling less singles or have been opening less singles. I have talked to some personal friends of mine that are massive box openers and eBay sellers, and that is the time period that they really stopped doing it, was about the Amonkhet. It just got so dismally low for the expected value of booster box that it was not worth it. So I think that we're seeing kind of the opposite, the pendulum swing the other way. Not a lot of people got into Dominaria to start cracking them and sell them off, and the lack of vendors is actually making the price of cards go up. Because you got to think that markets, see, I always have this argument with people that don't like speculators, don't like vendors. If everyone would just trade cards rather than these eBay sellers and dirty speculators and filthy stores like me that try to make a profit off of stuff, then we could have cheap Magic cards. And now we're actually seeing the opposite occur. When people are in the game, it's the speculators and the people in the market that actually stabilize prices quicker. You start seeing these huge pendulum swings if it isn't profitable, if people aren't even investing in Magic the Gathering. I think that's what we're really occurring right now, is we're seeing a lack of supply entering the marketplace rather than this really huge demand for Magic cards. Because again, all of the other indicators are showing that Magic player base is down. So why are prices going up? And that's the only theory that makes sense to me. So there's a few things that you can do to look at the overall feel of the market, I've talked about this before. MTG Stocks has an all-time high low that uses TCG Player Mark, and usually if we're in a bear market, you'll see the all-time low start to creep up and have more of a there will be a lot more cards in this bracket than there will be in the all-time high. But as you can see right now, all-time high is definitely, 3 or 4 times the size of this all-time low. And the all-time low is still really the trend of the last year, the last 2 years, which is foil cards have really lost their specialness. So you're seeing a lot of these pre-release cards, of course, from Dominaria, these oversized cards, pre-release cards, are recently Iconic Masters Judge promos. This was a huge theme of 2017 of rare cards from non-reserve list rare cards. These type of cards no one seems to care about as much as they used to. 2015 was a huge run on the market for these type of cards, for these more rare or foil type cards, and they increased a ton. Judge foils especially, but with the expeditions and masterpieces and invocations and supplemental products and spell books and all these things that they've printed, I think that collectors have really had a kind of rude awakening if they want to collect everything, how expensive that gets. And overall, it just means that people are going to start selling off their collections because, oh, I'm not going to collect every Judge foil at this point anymore, and it gets put back into the market. So that is a downturn in the market, whereas reserve list cards, modern cards, Pauper cards, and even a lot of commander cards are starting to hit their all-time high, according to the mtgstocks.com. So keep that in mind. We're having singles prices still be very, very strong, but I want to caution that this might not be a good sign. It's a good sign of people that are still alive in the marketplace, but I think this is a big indicator that so many people have been killed in 2017 and 2016, even the early parts of 2018, that it just wasn't feasible to be running a model, a for-profit model for Magic the Gathering. And a lot of people, cheer your hearts out. Even a lot of my fans do not like that aspect of Magic, do not think that people should be making a living or making money off Magic cards. But what ends up happening, the end result, is if it becomes less profitable, less people are in the game, and when less people in the game, we have these massive swings of booms and busts. So that does lead us to a pretty good opportunity of where to invest. My strategy is still in underrated Commander cards. Commander is starting to really be a solved, I don't know. The whole thing about Commander is it seems to have a demographics in itself, in its own little play group. You have people that will spend, there'll be the more spiky players, there'll be the more themed-based players. So the Timmy, Johnny, Spike is represented Commander the same way it's represented in any other faction of Magic. And you also have your budget people. So a lot of times they'll be like, oh man, why doesn't everybody just have the exact same... It tends to be like 20 cards going every Commander deck at this point, from the Soul Rings to the Cyclonic Rift type cards. And it's harder and harder for new cards on new sets to actually be put in a deck. And then when a card does come in, it inevitably bumps something else out. So you got to be on top of like the Commander meta to really realize what to invest in. See, EDH Rec is still a gold mine for when you are looking at cards to invest in. My favorite thing to do is to go click on one of these sets and then find a card that sees a ton of play, yet is undervalued depending on how much you see play. So here's one right here that I think is a great investment, which is Arch of Araska. It sees play in 323 Commander decks, being such a new set. Of course, this is going to be very low. You compare it to the card that sees the highest, which is Etali Primal Storm, and it's about 60% of the Etali Primal Storm. So basically, Arch of Araska should start going up in value if you compare 350 to 75 cents. I know this is going at Card Kingdom, so it doesn't translate that well. That this is actually undervalued. So these are the type of cards I like to invest in, and little by little, they'll make their money back. If you go back into this was a strategy I made for a card called Dictate of Erebos. When I invested in Dictate of Erebos, it was the same thing. It was very, very undervalued at the time, and it was seeing just a phenomenal amount of Commander play. And see, it's an 18,000 Commander decks. Of course, this has more data to back it up, and it's all the way up, according to Card Kingdom, about $6.50. And that's the same way that I did with Cyclonic Rift. So that is Commander's still where I like to park it, because it still doesn't seem to be the most saturated in the market. Like, more people look at Modern and Standard, and even now Pauper is something that is harder and harder to invest in, because people have already started to invest in Pauper like I have. And then when more people are actually, it causes this increase in price temporarily, and then the prices will stabilize back down to where they should be eventually. So Commando still is my bread and butter. I still think that if you are savvy with like, especially cards that are coming out, you saw that when we were looking at MTG stocks, a lot of the Thalids, a lot of the sapling producers have increased a whopping 700%, even more than that, because of the Slimefoot commander that just came out of Dominaria. So that's something that I also suggest you do, is when you go over to a new set comes out, you come over to EDH Rec, click on Dominaria, you try to see which of these commanders are seeing the most play. So Muldrotha the Gravetide, Joda Archmage the Eternal, and Slimefoot the Stowaway. Muldrotha's kind of not vanilla as far as the mechanics, but I mean, it works around a lot of cards. So there aren't going to be a lot of cards that specifically have to go in Muldrotha. Same thing with Joda. Joda's just going to, make things cost cheaper. So stuff like Eldrazi, or things that are cost a spells that cost a ton, or artifacts that cost a ton, are usually going to go in Joda, Archmage of Eternal. But if you go to something like Slimefoot the Stowaway, this is a very, very specific commander that a lot of people are liking to play, and then you can come over here and figure out what card is going to go up. So something like the Death Spore Thallid. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a Spore counter on Death Spore Thallid, remove 3 Spore counters from Death Spore Thallid, put a 1/1 green sapling token, and sacrifice it to give us -1/-1. So the Lycanthrope Thallid went up, the Utopium Icon have already gone up, and I'm sure if we click over here to the Death Spore Thallid, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of movement here. This is still something that could be quite underrated. Look at the foil, though. Good God. Just massively went up to about $60 and then back down. So if you have any of these in your bulk, definitely go check it out and get rid of them ASAP. But this could easily be a card from All the Demand that could increase the price of it. So again, the investing is still alive and well. At this point of this market money is just to give a kind of a heads up to where we're at. We're definitely in a bull market, but it could be a misleading bull market. That could be temporary, because this is exactly what happens in Magic. So we had, back in 2013, when the Modern craze came out, there was basically no one in MTG Finance. There were very, very few people that even cared about buying and selling Magic cards. It was basically stores and a few people here and there. If you were your savvy person at your local game store or your play group, you could make a killing trading. I used to be the middleman of the commander players, or the casual players, and the constructed players, and I used to just trade back and forth, and I'd always keep these binders organized for each demographic, and then upsell each one of them, and then trade back and forth. And also, I used to do a lot of speculating back then, because no one did, and there was just so easy trends of rotation and reprints that no one seemed to follow. And then it got really, it became a fad. It became very popular to be in the MTG Finance. In fact, the whole Reddit threads, or a whole subreddit popped up. Almost every massive website, from Card Kingdom to Star City Games to Cool Stuff Inc. to all of these, will have articles on MTG Finance, or have a finance person on board to write articles. And it seems to be that everyone became a finance guru. Well, then it became unprofitable, or just became too tedious, I would say, from Amonkhet forward, and I think we've seen a lot of people drop off. But now with Dominaria and prices just skyrocketing and people being able to make a buck again, I would think that we're going to see people enter back into the MTG Finance. So that's my big warning about Dominaria. If you're holding on to any Dominaria cards, I would highly suggest selling them off. It doesn't matter what it is. It should be something you should sell off, because as long as a box is worth this sort of value at $115 to $120 estimated value per booster box, that means it's even profitable for people to buy it on eBay and for $100 and then piece it out and sell it for singles. As soon as that is feasible, you'd be very surprised at people that are willing to work for less than a minimum wage, willing to just love to sell, to buy and sell. and then we're going to see, I think we're going to see a lot of packs cracked and a lot of new supply enter into the marketplace. So I guess the whole point of this Market Monday is to always, try to read between the lines. Don't just look at something flat out and say, wow, Magic must be in good shape if all of these cards are just going crazy. There's usually more at play, or there's some sort of reasoning behind it. It's the same thing that we're seeing with gas prices at the moment. Gas prices are skyrocketing, and not because we have like the most healthy economy. We actually have a very weak dollar. And of course, when the weak dollar is compared to gas prices go up. Usually when the dollar's strong, gas prices go down. Of course, there's some other factors, like is there a war in the Middle East, or is there a particular group like OPEC that is releasing more oil? And Magic the Gathering is kind of the same thing. You got to try to figure out exactly what is going on to affect prices. The whole reason that Pauper right now, in my opinion, is low. So if we go over here to movers and shakers, you can see there's zero movement in Pauper right now. What I mean by movement is these are just normal everyday ebb and flows. 16 cents is nothing to get excited about compared to 8 cents going down. And a lot of these cards that went up today went down yesterday. We're seeing a very stagnant, very, very stagnant Pauper. Well, the big reasoning for that is not Card Sphere, Card Kingdom, and we have Star City Games are now have refilled like all of their inventory. This was let me see if this will pick up. So Burslar Rangers was a card that was completely out of stock on Star City Games. They've restocked them all, back up to 59 of them, and raised the price to $1.25. This is something that was out of stock for a long time at like 35 cents, and they've restocked and raised it up. We come over to Card Kingdom. Literally everything is back in stock, and it's not that Pauper is dead. It's not that Pauper is dying. It's that we had this really, really shortage in supply that no one was even focusing on Pauper cards. And then all of a sudden it became extremely profitable to sift through bulk and find cards. And lo and behold, Star City Games and Card Kingdom put these massive buy lists, because you can, if you look at it for your like selling the cards, they still buy these sell cards. Like Card Kingdom, let's just look at Burslar Ranger, for example. They still buy them for 25 cents, for example. This is what they were selling it for a couple months ago. And so when they increase their buy list, people just start going through their bulk and then sending this big $300 package to Star City Games or Cool Stuff or Card Kingdom or all these other vendors. And then everyone gets restocked, and then the prices. So it's going to take another huge stretch of demand to outstretch the supply from Pauper to see prices increase. And again, that's exactly, we're going to see the reverse of this happen in Standard. Right now, I bet let's click on here and let's try to look at some buy list for. So the best buy list, Card Kingdom, is paying $23 for a Lyra Dawnbringer, for example. I wonder if it's even profitable just to open up boxes and sell them directly. Let's look at Karn. What is Karn from Dominaria? Karn buy list price $33 from Card Kingdom. What's this going to happen is they are low. That means they want. Let's come over here to see if they have any in stock at all. So they have 8 in stock. That's not where they want to be. They want to be 20 plus in stock. As a store, they're going to continue to increase their buy list until they're actually getting more than they're selling, so they can keep the demand of their buyers. And they have premium buyers. Of course, they're selling it for more than TCG Player at this point. So that's why they're offering such an incredibly high buy list price. So what we're going to see is massive supply, then enter the vendors, and then we see a rinse and repeat. And again, this we've seen this happen before. Even Battle for Zendikar had some expensive cards from time to time, and then people realize they're expensive, and then the vendors then increase their buy list, which increases people selling it, and then the prices then come back down. So I think that you should really sell into this. I think that the prices cannot hold at $117, $120 a booster box. Same thing can be said for Modern. I have a hard time seeing a lot of these Modern prices hold. If we look at I think we're starting to see that with Modern, a stabilization, because this exact same thing happened. We can see with the Caverns of Souls, it went up, and it's starting to slightly go back down. It's probably because I wish I had some history for the buy list prices. I wonder if a lot of these, when it got here, they increased their buy list price, and now it's kind of settled off. That's still a fairly decent margin for a card like that. But I've been noticing that there have been a lot. Unfortunately, Goldfish isn't showing us the weekly trend here, or the weekly trend. I wish they had a monthly trend on Goldfish as well. But we saw a lot of the Dark Confidants. This card has been a card that's been going up and down and up and down and up and down. And again, that really has to do with the game of these buy list prices. At one point, I do believe this buy list price was higher, and then they got a ton back in, and then they lowered it back in. So Standard is going to follow suit. I think that usually when everyone's focuses on either Modern or Standard, your focus should be on Commander, and same thing, vice versa. You always want to be on the speculating in on the thing that's not popular at the time, and selling out of the demographic or the format that is popular at this time. So hopefully you got anything out of this Market Monday. I know this was kind of all over the place. Hopefully I stayed on thought. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below what your feel. Is it a bear or a bull market? Is it strong at your local game store? We've picked up a lot. There's been a lot more people. Usually this is the time we're starting to die off, is springtime. We have kids that start getting into baseball, and then people start traveling like crazy. And God Road Games, even since the beginning, we've struggled in the summers. Our big time is usually the fall through winter till about right now, then it starts to die off. But I think that we've actually, our pre-release is pretty good. We're getting a lot of influx of new players. It seems to be exciting again. But the statistics of 2017 don't lie. What I've heard from other people is just the dismal turnout for FNMs and whatnot cannot be ignored. So I'd like to know in the comment section what you think. Is Magic starting to increase? Is Dominaria really brought people back? Man, I was wrong about Dominaria. I really thought this was going to be a beloved set, but just not a really open set, because the Legendary means you don't really need a ton of them for a lot of different decks, even including like the Teferi. A lot of the decks were running one ofs and two ofs of Teferis. I mean, at that point, if you don't want more than two of a Planeswalker, I mean, it can never go up to the value of something like a Chandra or a Jace where you needed four of in decks. But anyway, we'll see Dominaria come down. It's got to. There's no way it can keep this price tag. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.